FastAPI is the framework you reach for when you want your Python backend to be quick to write, easy to maintain, and fast in production. It's built on Starlet and Pydantic, so you get async support, automatic validation, and clean documentation without extra configuration. If Flask is the friendly everyone starts here framework and Django is the massive corporate skyscraper, FastAPI sits right in the sweet spot between them. Lightweight, powerful, and extremely developer friendly. Its secret sauce is Python type hints. Its biggest superpower is validation. You define what your data should look like using Pydantic, and FastAPI makes sure every request matches that structure. No more tracking down weird runtime bugs because someone sent a string where a number should have been. And then there's async. FastAPI is built to take advantage of Python's async and await keywords, which means your server can handle multiple requests at the same time without getting stuck waiting on slow operations. Instead of blocking the whole application while it waits on a database or an external service, async lets it pause that task, handle something else, and come back to it later. Thanks to efficient async handling and a lean architecture under the hood, FastAPI consistently ranks near the top of Python framework performance benchmarks. But the best part? Automatic documentation. The moment your server starts, FastAPI gives you a fully interactive Swagger UI and redoc page. No extra setup, no extra files. Your whole API documented instantly. Alright, enough hype. Let's build an actual FastAPI application. A small basketball stats API. I'll explain every line so you know exactly what's happening. Imagine you create a new Python file called main.py. The first thing you do is import FastAPI and the base model class from Pydantic. FastAPI is the core framework and base model is what lets us describe and validate data. Next, you initialize your application by creating an instance of the FastAPI class. This object is the central hub of your project. All your API routes and functionality attached to it. Now we define what a basketball player looks like. You create a class called player that inherits from base model. Inside it, you list three fields: a name, which is a string, a team, which is a string, and points per game, which is a floating point number. This tells FastAPI exactly what shape incoming data must have. If someone tries to submit a player without a team or sends text instead of a number for points, FastAPI rejects it with a clear, helpful error. You don't configure anything extra. Python type hints and Pydantic handle the work. For this demo, we need a place to store players. Instead of setting up a database, we'll just use a simple Python list called db. Let's start by adding a player. You define a function and mark it as a post route at /players. The function accepts a player object as input. FastAPI automatically reads the incoming JSON request, validates it, and turns it into an actual player instance. Inside the function, you append that player to the list and return a message confirming the addition. Next is the get endpoint. This route also lives at /players, but handles GET requests. The function simply returns the list of all players currently stored. FastAPI automatically converts the Python list into JSON before sending it back to the client. You don't have to do anything special. Now let's say a player gets traded and their stats change. We need a way to update them. So you create a put route at /players/player name. In the code, you wrap the player name in curly braces to turn it into a path parameter. The function accepts a player object again. Inside, you loop through the list of players, find the one with the matching name, and override their data with the new input. If the player exists, you return their updated stats. Finally, we need to handle retirement. You create a delete route at /players/player name. You pull the name from the URL, scan through the list, and if you find a matching player, you remove them. Clean, simple, and effective. To run everything, you start the server with Uvicorn and then open the documentation page at localhost 8000/docs. There you'll see your entire API laid out visually, with buttons to test adding, reading, updating, and deleting players. It's an incredibly helpful tool when building or testing an API because you can interact with your endpoints without writing a single line of extra code. That's FastAPI in a nutshell. Clear structure, automatic validation, async performance, and documentation that appears the moment you hit run. In just a few minutes, you've built a fully functional basketball stats API that's easy to extend, maintain, and scale.